What if the devil could speak through a human mouth? What if a voice not their own screamed blasphemies, cursed priests, and begged for fire? For centuries, the Catholic Church has claimed it can cast out demons, but behind the sacred prayers lies a history soaked in fear, torture, and madness. This is not just religion. This is war. Exorcism. The very word conjures images of bodies thrashing, priests shouting in Latin, and holy water sizzling on skin. Yet the origins of this ritual stretch far beyond Christianity. In Mesopotamia, clay tablets describe ceremonies to drive out good and evil spirits that brought sickness. In ancient Greece, philosophers like Pythagoras believed madness could be a form of divine possession. And in Judaism, the concept of Dybbuk, a wandering soul that clings to the living, echoed the same terror. But it was Rome, and later the Catholic Church, that claimed absolute authority over the practice. To the Vatican, possession was not just a sickness of the mind. It was the devil's direct invasion. And the priest was not just a healer, he was a soldier of Christ. By the 4th century, Christianity was rising to dominance. Pagan rituals were condemned. Yet exorcism was absorbed, baptized into holy tradition. Priests began to wield prayers, the sign of the cross, and relics as weapons. In 1614, the Vatican published the Ritual Romanum, the official handbook of exorcisms. Page after page instructed priests on how to confront demons, demand the spirit's name, threaten it with the agony of Christ's passion, and drive it out with relentless prayer. But here's the disturbing truth. Many so-called possessions were likely mental illness, epilepsy, or hysteria. And yet, rather than compassion, the Church often delivered violence. Victims were tied to beds, deprived of food, and subjected to endless chanting that could last days. Exorcism was not always salvation. Sometimes it was a death sentence. Case study 1. The Loudun possessions, France, 1634. In a quiet French convent, the Ursuline nuns began to convulse, scream, and accuse a local priest, Urbain Grandier, of summoning demons to seduce them. Witnesses claimed to see the nuns' bodies twist in impossible ways. Their voices drop into guttural tones, but behind the spectacle lay politics. Grandier had enemies in high places. The Church seized the scandal, declaring him guilty of witchcraft and sorcery. He was tortured, burned alive, and his ashes scattered to the wind. The nuns, they remained possessed for years, performing in front of gawking crowds, until the hysteria slowly faded. Historians now believe it was a mix of repression, manipulation, and sheer theater. Yet to the Vatican, it was proof the devil was real, and exorcism was its weapon. Case study 2. The possession of Nicolas Aubry, France, 1566. Nicolas Aubry, a young French girl, began to speak with multiple voices, one of a child, another of a man, and one that claimed to be Satan himself. She reportedly blasphemed the Eucharist, spat at holy relics, and with unnatural strength resisted entire groups of men. Dozens of priests attempted exorcism. According to records, the demon inside her mocked them, laughing at their weakness. Only after months of public ceremonies attended by thousands did Nicolas collapse, exhausted. Declared free at last, the spectacle served as propaganda. The Church turned her torment into proof of Catholic truth during a time of Protestant rebellion. Her suffering became a weapon of politics. To the Church, possession was not random, it was punishment, a doorway opened by sin, heresy, or dabbling with forbidden knowledge. This idea gave the Vatican terrifying power. Any rebellion, any madness, could be labeled the work of demons. And unlike healers or doctors, the priest was not accountable to medicine. He was accountable only to God. Imagine the fear. To be sick meant you might be damned. To be insane meant the devil had crawled inside your skull. Families begged priests to intervene. Communities demanded exorcisms, and the Vatican held the keys to salvation. Case study 3. The Würzburg possessions, Germany, 1620s. At the height of the 30 Years' War, young women in Würzburg were accused of possession. They writhed in convulsions, foamed at the mouth, and cried out blasphemies. The local prince-bishop ordered brutal exorcisms and, when those failed, executions. Dozens were burned at the stake, not only women but children. The border between exorcism and witch hunt blurred until there was no difference. The Church had turned spiritual warfare into physical carnage. By the 18th century, Enlightenment thinkers began to question exorcism. Was it truly the devil or the human mind breaking under stress? Doctors whispered about hysteria and nervous disorders. Yet the Vatican refused to surrender its grip. Even today, it still trains exorcists, and in some corners of the world, thousands of possessions are reported every year. But what happens when the ritual goes too far, when exorcism becomes torture, and the priest becomes the monster? That is where our story turns next. From ancient demons to Vatican authority, exorcism has never been just about faith. It's about control, fear, and the thin line between salvation and horror. But the darkest cases, the ones hidden, silenced, and forbidden, are yet to come. In next chapter, we open the Vatican's most terrifying exorcism files. And what you'll hear will make you question, was the devil truly inside the victim, or inside the men who tried to cast him out? Follow, subscribe, and prepare, because the real horror is only beginning. What if the most terrifying exorcisms weren't hidden in movies, but buried in real Vatican files? What if the screams were real, the deaths were real, and the devil or something darker was left behind? These are the cases the church doesn't want you to know. Exorcism has always lived in the shadows, half faith, half fear. But behind closed doors, certain rituals spiraled out of control. Victims died, priests lost their minds, and families were left shattered, not saved. The Vatican calls these extreme cases. Some say they prove the devil's existence. Others believe they expose the church's darkest abuses of power. And today, we're opening those files. Case Study 4, Anneliese, Michel, Germany. 1976, she was only 23, a student, devoutly Catholic, but plagued by seizures. Doctors diagnosed epilepsy, but her family and eventually the church believed something far worse was inside her. Over 10 months, Anneliese endured 67 exorcism sessions. She screamed in guttural voices, barked like a dog, and claimed to be possessed by Lucifer himself. Along with Cain, Judas, and Hitler, her body wasted away. Knees shattered from kneeling in endless prayer, she starved to death at only 68 pounds. The world was horrified. Her parents and two priests were charged with negligent homicide. And yet, even in death, the Vatican hesitated to fully condemn the ritual. Was it faith gone too far, or undeniable proof of possession? Case Study 5, Robbie, Mannheim, USA, 1949. The case that inspired The Exorcist. Robbie was a 14-year-old boy who began to experience strange phenomena. After playing with a Ouija board, objects flew across the room. Scratch marks carved into his skin spelled the word hell. Jesuit priests performed dozens of exorcisms. Witnesses claimed the boy spoke in ancient languages, hissed like a serpent, and broke free of restraints with superhuman strength. Finally, in St. Louis, after weeks of rituals, the demon allegedly screamed, "Leave him," and was gone. To skeptics, Robbie was a traumatized child. To the church, it was the devil unmasked. Case Study 6, Clara Germain, Seal, South Africa, 1906, at only 16. Clara confessed to making a pact with Satan. Soon, witnesses claimed she spoke languages she had never learned, revealed the darkest secrets of strangers, and levitated 5 feet in the air. Nuns held her down as the priests performed an exorcism that lasted 2 full days. Clara shrieked, her body contorted, until finally she collapsed, silent. The priests declared victory, but the girl never fully recovered. Whispers followed her until her death. What do these cases reveal? The Vatican insists that possession is real, but notice the pattern. Victims are often young. Many suffer from epilepsy, schizophrenia, or trauma. The rituals themselves cause injury, starvation, even death. Science says illness. Faith says demons. But in the silence between screams, one question lingers. Who is the real monster, the devil, or those who claim to fight him? Case Study 7, the Tanaku Exorcism, Romania. 2005, this is not medieval history, it happened in our century. A 23-year-old nun, Irina Kernici, was tied to a cross, gagged, and left for days without food or water during an exorcism. She died of suffocation and dehydration. The priest in charge said he was saving her soul. A court convicted him of murder. The Vatican distanced itself. calling it a local aberration. But many asked, how many other arenas have suffered in silence? Case Study 8. The Smolensk Possession, Russia. 1870s. Hidden deep in Orthodox archives lies a case where an entire village claimed to be possessed. Dozens of peasants convulsed, screamed, and accused one another of harboring demons. A Catholic priest was invited to intervene. For weeks, he performed exorcisms in public squares. Some villagers died in the process, hearts failing under exhaustion and terror. The priest wrote that he had faced an army of devils. Historians believe it was mass hysteria fueled by famine, poverty, and fear. Think about it. Across centuries and continents, the same story repeats. Victims suffer. Priests intervene, and terror spreads. But the Vatican keeps these files locked away. Why? Perhaps to protect the faithful, or perhaps because the line between miracle and murder is far too thin. What if some priests believed so deeply in the devil that they became what they feared most? Executioners in holy robes. Exorcism is not disappearing. In fact, the Vatican has increased training for exorcists in recent years. Reports of possession are rising worldwide, yet science continues to fight back. Psychiatry, neurology, trauma studies. Two worlds collide: faith versus medicine, salvation versus suffering. And the victims, caught in the middle, are often left broken. From Anneliese Michel's tragic death to Robbie Mannheim's chilling ordeal, the Vatican's darkest files reveal one truth, whether real or imagined: possession has the power to destroy lives. So ask yourself, when the exorcist raises the crucifix, are they fighting the devil, or are they feeding him? Even today, the Vatican still maintains its secretive office, the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, the modern descendant of the Inquisition. Within its walls, thousands of exorcism reports are archived, sealed from the public eye. These documents reveal a chilling truth: possession cases never stop, they simply change form. In Italy alone, the Church trains more than 200 active exorcists each year. They report thousands of new cases ranging from strange voices and violent convulsions to inexplicable knowledge of ancient languages. Priests describe young people screaming in tongues they never learned, elderly women levitating from their hospital beds, and entire families collapsing into fear when night falls. One infamous case shook Rome in 1999. A university student, obsessed with occult rituals, began attacking strangers with superhuman strength. Witnesses claim his eyes turned jet black as he howled curses in Aramaic. Over 6 months, 3 different priests attempted the rite of exorcism. The Vatican never released the final report, but insiders whispered that the ritual ended only after the boy's sudden and mysterious death. The Church insists exorcism is about liberation, not horror, but history leaves scars. Victims like Anneliese Michel became martyrs to both faith and fear. Cases like Robbie Mannheim's exorcist possession turned rituals into pop culture terror. And modern psychiatrists continue to clash with priests, arguing, are these demons or untreated psychosis? And yet the demand grows. In 2019, the Vatican even hosted a week-long exorcism training course, teaching priests how to identify curses, demonic infestations, and unnatural illnesses. They spoke of Satan adapting to modern times, slipping not only into seances and Ouija boards, but into technology, music, and even social media. So here we stand between faith and madness, between science and ritual. The Vatican will never abandon exorcism, because to admit demons aren't real would unravel centuries of doctrine. But every story, every scar, every whisper from the dark asks the same chilling question: if demons are only in our minds, why do they leave claw marks on the walls?